Tell it like it is Tuesday on the Buddy Martin Show with David Whitley from the Gainesville Sun and Rob Brown from SEC Sidelines. Who is the odds-on favorite to be the next UF football coach? And can Billy Napier do anything to salvage this season? All that and more on the Buddy Martin Show. Hit the like and subscribe button below, and here we go.
Yes, it's time again for Buddy Martin. Call him up and tell him what you're thinking. But be kind because he's doing the best he can.
Better, stronger, faster.
Mama says that alligators are ornery because they got all them teeth but no toothbrush.
Hey, what if the voice calls while you're gone?
Take a message.
Bye.
You ready, champ?
I'm ready for this my whole life.
I'm incapable of small talk. But that's why you love me, right?
Kind of intimidating to be in the presence of so many great athletes.
Program than others. You have more invested. I don't care about dollars. You do, Shane. And this is what they've done to your school.
Yeah, it's not great. So back to YouTube, brought to you by Quality Plumbing. Jack says, do y'all think Lane Kiffin would leave Ole Miss for Florida? I love our university, but we are a dumpster fire. I've gone through my thoughts on Lane, whether it's right or wrong. People forget my ties to Ole Miss too. You know, Ole Miss, I know that program extremely well. Grew up going to it till I basically became a senior in high school.
Dad played there.
Dad played there. My mom's a cheerleader. I mean, I love the Rebels, but the brand is different. The brand is different. Yeah, they're a better team. They're a better program than we are right now, but that doesn't mean it can't change.
And that was the pride of Pascagoula, Mississippi. Former QB, former UF great, still a UF great. Shane Matthews kind of breaking down what we're going to kind of cover today is where does UF go in their search for a new football coach if Billy Napier should be relieved. Word is that's already in the works, basically in play. And, sometimes here shortly there will be an interim named. We don't know that for sure, but that's kind of what's coming out of there. And Shane Matthews, a Mississippi native, like says dad played at Ole Miss, has a lot of context there, also knows the Kiffin family very well. And from all intents and purposes, seems like that this is his dream job. But we welcome in David Whitley from the Gainesville Sun. How you doing, Dave?
I'm not the pride of anywhere. Pascagoula. Are you the pride of anywhere?
What's that?
Are you the pride of anywhere?
I am one of the prides of Meadowdale High School in Dayton, Ohio.
I would think so. I suspect you have a lot of records
maybe a
on
little
the
bit
athletic
of
wall.
Ohio
There.
Northern University in Ada, Ohio, which is worth about the $5 or a bet that I may lay on the next head coach at Florida. That's about what that's worth is the $5 that I would put on the odds. But Mr. Whitley, when you talk about it, you were kind of the first one. I mean, the ink was barely dry on the score sheet. And you wrote an article basically detailing why the Gators need to move on from Billy Napier. And, you always insightful, things like that. It, just always in tune with things. And, kind of explain to us what we, as far as, what you meant in that article.
Yeah, I don't think I was really a groundbreaker. I was just reflecting what you just tune into any website, any message board anywhere, or just any water cooler around the 352 area code these days, or really anywhere else where the topic of Florida Gators comes up, and you get the same stuff. I was one who said that Billy deserves 3 years before we can make a fair assessment of how this is going, because he had walked into a choose your term, dumpster fire, tire fire, Chernobyl, blah, blah, blah. But it would take that long to turn it around. And I was sticking to that until, well, you started to waver there when you saw Miami, and then Texas A&M just drove it home. And that, I think the verdict is in. This team, it's sort of like he still has, in theory, 9 more games to prove himself, but it's just hard to see unless you're just, I wouldn't say drinking the Billy Kool-Aid. There's no such thing anymore as Billy Kool-Aid. It's just impossible to see, given how this team is trending, how to wait 3 years would be to assume that he is making progress, and you're just not seeing it. It's sad, but there's just no way around it. You're seeing regress instead of progress at this point.
Yeah.
And
sorry to interrupt you. I just wanted to mention Brian Fisher on the super chat says that it's Lane or Lincoln or bust. And it looks like, I'm going to let you continue because it looks like this is where we're kind of on bust before we get into who the next guy is. Go ahead and continue with where we are with bust.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, the Lane thing we'll be talking about for the next 3 months. Yeah, that's for sure. But we got to get rid of this, the first item on the agenda. And, I mean, it's Billy, and just now, it's just a question of, unfortunately, when, not if. And it's you hear now the topic is, well, why keep him on? Other people are saying, they'll just let him just stay on just to keep some continuity and the whole thing. I think at this point, fans are being tortured. Billy's being tortured by being out there. I think at this point you cut your losses, and people saying, "Well, you're going to lose the team." These kids, they're not oblivious to all this that's going on. They know that Billy's a lame duck,
right? And
people are saying, "Well, if he goes, teams are going to start raiding team." Teams are already trying to raid. I mean, I bet Eugene Wilson has 100 texts a day from other back channel people saying, "Hey, come here, we'll do this. Come here, we'll do that." That's happening regardless of who's there, because everybody knows what's going to happen. This thing, and at this point, my feeling is just you're doing Billy a favor, you're doing the school a favor, you're doing the fans a favor. When your fans are booing the head coach for a PSA about drunk driving, there's no. It's just hard to fathom that they're coming back from that, and you hate to see it for them, and you hate to see it for Billy. He's put himself in this position, but he's not a bad guy, and just to see him just become this object of ridicule, which deservedly so. He knew who he was getting into when it comes to the territory, right. But I just don't see how that whole atmosphere changes. And at least if you get call it a caretaker, or whatever, I think there's a rally around the flag thing going. Like, I think this would have been a good way to do it, because, let's face it, if you can't rally around the interim coach and go to and take it on the road and beat, a team that was just beaten by Toledo by 24 points.
Yeah, 49-17.
Something like that. Yeah. If you're not going to go on the and rally around that, I think they'd play just as hard for this guy, whoever that may be, or would have been, as for Billy. And so I just see the pluses of moving on better than the minuses of keeping him.
And what are you hearing? I mean, we've heard a lot about, like you said, the transition plan, when they're going to do it. Like you said, you were surprised that they didn't do it this week. We've heard that there's speculation that it could even be tomorrow, and there's an announcement made saying as this will be the second press conference of the week, tomorrow evening. And, so those kind of things. Have you heard anything concrete or from anybody that's in the works, or is it just kind of business as usual for right now until the team goes to Starkville and maybe returns with a victory, or, looks as uninvolved as they have against top-ranked competition?
Yeah, I would be stunned if it's done before the Saturday. I mean, if you're going to do it tomorrow, I mean, what's the difference? Why not? Why didn't you do it Monday? That way they would have more time to adjust to this and get a game plan and all that. And I don't think you yank the coach one day before they're getting on the plane to go there. I mean, give him the courtesy of at least going out there and coaching one final game. I mean, You've gone this far. And if it's going to happen, I think it's going to happen on a Sunday or Monday of a week, probably a Sunday where, whoever's in, at least you have 5 days to go ahead and go through a regular routine. So there's always a Wednesday night press conference. If they'd have called one where there wasn't one before and they were announcing that, Scott Strickland is going to speak to the media tomorrow at 4, then you go, but it's just a regularly scheduled Wednesday night press conference that they always have. So I would be flabbergasted if they get up there and there's an empty microphone and Scott gets up and says, we've decided on Wednesday. So what's changed between Monday and Wednesday,
right?
Or Sunday and Wednesday. So I don't think it's going to happen. And of course, if they lose Saturday, there's zero chance that Sunday won't be Black Sunday. If not, I have no dog in this fight. But if he loses loses that game, I would almost go down there and want to fire myself and ask, what are you? What more does it take? At this point,
Well, David, really three things. One, I want to tell you, so I will be in Starkville this weekend. And after the game in Starkville, guess who plays a little bit further north in the state of Mississippi that evening? So
let's see. From Stark, I'm trying to get my Mississippi geography. Oxford is Oxford, Oxford, because you can drive to Oxford. Memphis, and Memphis is high.
I will be in Oxford, sampling the goods, so to speak, and maybe have something to report. So I'm going to leave Starkville and go to Oxford and watch Ole Miss, Georgia Southern that evening. So I will get a good look at the man everybody wants. But before we do that, I want to touch on two things, and we'll bring Rob in here in a minute as we kind of talk about the next step in the coaching search and coaching change. Where did Billy Napier, in your opinion, where did it go wrong? Where has it gone wrong?
I think it went wrong, frankly, when they hired him. We didn't know it at the time because it's the darndest thing with, it's such an inexact science, hiring coaches, unless it's Nick Saban, where what you're going to get. But Billy was one of these classic guys who checked all the boxes on the web. I went back and I reread all the comment from his introductory press conference. That's the term that Scott checked all and he did. He had served as an apprentice. Been on Saban's staff. Climbed the ladder. Been very successful at the group of 5 level, and so it's the next step. And a lot of guys get there, and a lot of them look good, but you never know till you get till you take that next step if they're capable of doing it. And Florida has learned that. Look no further back than Will Muschamp. He was the coach in waiting at Texas. He was the shooting star. Everybody wanted to have him as their next coach. And Florida swooped in when Urban went to spend more time with his family. And here, so when they hired Will Muschamp, you're thinking, gosh, Jeremy, he got a coup here. He went and stole Texas' future coach out from under him. And you're thinking, because again, he checked all the boxes going up there, but he got here and you realize, he just won a head coach. Right. And a lot of times you don't realize that till you get some guys are, they make that next jump. Kalen DeBoer, 3 years ago, he's at Fresno State, and he goes to Washington. Boom. He proves he can do it there. And now, boom, he's doing it at Alabama.
Yeah.
Yeah. That kind of guy. But there are more misses than hits when you go down that route. Tom Herman, he was the hot guy at, Urban's assistant. Everybody wanted him. Texas just rolled out the red carpet and gave him everything he wanted and just fell flat on his face. Right. Charlie Strong before that, checked all the boxes. Boom. One in at Louisville. You thinking, all right, so he goes to Tech. Boom. Because all these guys, they get there and they have a plan, and Billy had a plan, detailed to the nth degree, and it just hasn't worked. I think, just a lot of the plan would have worked, but he put the wrong pieces in place. And, you can look back and say, no, his assistants has been a lot of misses on there. When you have your third really defensive coordinator in 3 years, something's wrong. And, that bears out on that. And, his judgment wasn't good on a lot of the hires, and his judgment, he hasn't proven to be a good judge of talent. or a good developer of talent. And when I say he, it's this people he's hired too, but who knew this going in? Because he had done it all. He was 40-12 at Louisiana, and you just figure, all right, he's going to just carry it on. So basically, it's all a calculated risk, and the risk just didn't pay. It just blew up in their face at this point.
Right. Yeah. Now, speaking of risk, where is the risk for Scott Strickland? Because I think with Billy Napier being relieved of his duties, the question then becomes, what does this mean for Scott Strickland? I've been a big Scott Strickland supporter because I'm a person that, I believe that the athletic director serves at the mercy of all the sports. And if you look at Scott Strickland, he's presided over the biggest facilities improvements in athletics in the history of UF, and he's proven to be able to fundraise. He is initiating the well-needed improvements to the swamp. The indoor facility was finished, the Hefner complex, the baseball stadium, improvements to softball, track and field, all of those things. But yet it's going to be this choice of Billy Napier that could be his end. Have you heard that is, because certainly, I mean, in most cases, you don't get to pick a third head coach. Mm-hmm. I think he's hit on some of his hires, but this football hire has been, Ty Golden, I think, is a hit. Kelly Ray Finley is a hit. Even the new soccer coach seems to be moving things in the right direction. But when you look at, Dan Mullen and then now Billy Napier, does he get to pick a third head coach?
Maybe in theory he'll still be in there, but I think he will have a lot of people telling him what to do if he's still here. And now this is where it gets really murky because of the presidential situation and Ken Fox being there. And this is where the whole board of trustees gets thrown into this Cuisinart of rumors and how, but the board of regents, they don't actually hire anybody. They just they approve the hirings and the financial and stuff. It's up to Scott Strickland to fire the football coach, and it's up to the president to hire or fire the athletic director. And everything is in such limbo now because of what Fox wants to. Now, if it gets to the point where Billy just, if he loses this week or the season just, he loses to UCF, he wins this week, loses UCF, I think, Billy's got to go. I don't think it'll be a double whammy because, it's sort of like, well, who's going to be your interim AD? And then you have an interim coach, interim AD, interim, who will be conducting the search for the new head coach? Mm-hmm. It's a mess, right. The whole thing. Now, does Scott deserve to be fired? That's tough because it's easy to judge Billy or any coach because all you really have to do is just see the product on the field. And it's of obvious one, they'll build, you are what your record says you are, at this point. Yeah. But, an AD doesn't have a record per se. I mean, people may say, well, your football coach has this record, therefore you have it. No, there's so much more to being an athletic director than just hiring a football coach. It's an administrative job. It's a budgetary job. You're a manager. It's all this other stuff. I would say, 98% or 90% of his job is not football related. It's just fundraising. It's all that stuff. The building, and making just sure the trains run on time.
Right. Glad handing and whatnot.
Yeah. Glad handing right down to making sure, there's enough cream corn, whoever's in charge of the cream corn at the Hefner Center, it just, all this it comes through him at this point. But people don't care. They notice one thing. Well, they notice one major thing, football, secondary, basketball. The rest, they could, God love them, gymnastics, tennis, everything up track and field, they could never win a national championship. And if Billy or if Scott had Nick Saban winning there, he'd be the greatest AD, ever.
Right. Absolutely.
That's all people care about. And again, that may not necessarily be fair, but hey, nobody ever said this is fair. And that's why that's why you make the big bucks.
Yeah, that's true. Speaking of big bucks, our one of our sponsors, Meldon Law, the only official law firm of the Florida Gators. Meldon Law, we won't back down. And for those of you that don't know, Meldon Law does a lot of nice things for the Florida fans. If you follow Meldon Law on Facebook or Instagram, they always have really good ticket giveaways. I know people that have won tickets and things like that. We also want to mention Florida Victorious NIL. You know, the NIL is a lot bigger than just buying football players. You know, there's a lot of sports that depend on NIL. I was at volleyball tonight. They had a big meeting about, you know, trying to increase the NIL for some of the what you might call non-revenue sports and things like that to retain some of the players. So, you know, if you really take a look into Florida Victorious, they have a website that kind of details what they're doing and their vision. And they put on a nice spread there at the Gator Walk on game day. So, you know, definitely take a look at Florida Victorious, and we appreciate their sponsorship. And with that, we're going to go to Rob Brown from SEC Sideline. How you doing, Rob?
Good. Listening to y'all. And you know what? The talk up here, we had Yancey Porter on with us this morning, Rebel Yell Hotline, and lives in Oxford. He said Lane Kiffin's son is moving in from Los Angeles. He's building, Lane Kiffin's building his daughter a house in Oxford. And that, you know, that will be the talk. And, of course, Jimmy Sexton in Memphis will make a lot of people more money in just this conversation. But, again, like y'all both have said, it's real early. Lane Kiffin, you will know, in my opinion, if that team starts to fall apart, that he's flirting with another job. Or as Molly Hatchet famously sang, flirting with disaster. David knows that. He's got the 8-track in his car.
I do. I have you know, Molly Hatchet played the prom my sophomore year. I couldn't get in, but Robert E. Lee High School. Molly Hatchet.
Hey, I'm fired. I'm fired up about it. We got.
Is this Robert E. Lee in the state of Virginia?
Robert E. Lee in Jacksonville.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Yeah.
I was saying my nieces went to Robert E. Lee in Virginia.
Yeah, there are a few of them.
Yeah,
they've undergone a lot of name changes the last few years. So.
Right. Yeah, they have.
I mean, I'm gonna tell you what's wild is, and we got Chuck Lavelle coming on the show, a pretty well-known musician, keyboardist with the Allman Brothers, the Stones, Pink Floyd, big football fan. And I was fishing with his cousin in late August. I didn't know it was his cousin. I said, he looks just like him. I said, are you related to Chuck Lavelle? He goes, that's my first cousin. And so he's coming on the show, Sidelines, Friday morning, September 27th. We can all get comfortably numb.
Oh,
yeah, absolutely.
That's quite a get there for you, Rob.
Well, I did canoe Wendy down the Spring River while he drank into oblivion and fished. I paddled him around, and then I thought, are you related to that guy?
It, man. You got to get that. One thing I do want to touch on before we move on, and David, if you want to, but when we talk about the swamp improvements and what's needed, one is we got to think about our brethren that have trouble getting up and down the steps and things like that, and they have to get that thing up to code, which means they're gonna shrink it. But also, if you've been to other facilities, and I'll take pictures if you guys want me to, of Vaught Stadium and things like that. Other places have done the exact same thing to encourage people to come and hang out and really enjoy the atmosphere. And the days of packing them in like sardines is gone. Even the places like Michigan and Ohio State have done things to make the game day in-person experience better. And if you've been to places like Texas A&M, and we'll be going to Texas later this year, the everything from the concessions to just everything, it needs to be redone, and it is going to be a good thing for everybody involved. So I know I'm nostalgic as anybody, but the swamp needs a makeover. It's going to get one. And from what I understand, David and Rob, and you'll know this from being other places, they will make a part of the bids that they've been taking is the best bid is probably going to be the one that can get all these things, but still keep the charm of the swamp. So We don't have to keep on, but that's just what I understand. Now, what I do want to go into is this. So, you guys have been to Vegas, correct? We all been to Vegas once at least.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
I have not been. Mom won't let me go.
You have not been to Vegas, so you should go.
Mom won't let me stay out that late.
Oh man, you got to go. But so in Vegas, they set the odds, and one of the things they do is they don't build these buildings without getting these odds right. Is that right, Mr. Whitley? They take your money.
Oh, that's why they're all, there's a $2 billion sphere out there for a reason.
Right. So I'm getting ready to start some stuff now. So let me throw this out. Let's have some fun. Who is the most off the wall name that received odds in Vegas to be the next UF head coach? Hit that like and subscribe button.
Urban.
Who you guys think? Don't be cheating. Don't be cheating, Rob.
No, I'm not. I'm not looking. I'm actually sitting.
Give me an off the wall. Give me an off the wall one.
A hire for Florida.
Off the wall first, and then we'll get into the odds.
An off the wall hire, Bill O'Brien, maybe from Boston College.
Got What's that?
I think Bill O'Brien is a possibility because he saved Penn State from going into the abyss of hell when Sandusky was hanging out in showers, and that program could have been SMU.
Right. Yeah, they were on their way. He was not. It is the all-time leading rusher in NFL history.
Oh, Emmitt Smith.
Plus 30,000. Emmitt Smith.
Well, okay, I might throw $1 down on that. No more though.
30,000.
Yeah.
So who's number one? Who's got the best odds to be the next coach at one of our listeners already got it. Who is the odds-on favorite to be the next coach at UF?
Probably Chadwell or Leopold.
Jamey Chadwell, who is a really great guy. I think he's done well, did well at Coastal Carolina, is now the coach at Liberty. But what do you guys think of Chadwell? Let's say Lane is out of play. Where we at with Chadwell?
We're back to where we were with Billy. Like I said, guy who checks all the boxes, done everything right, but he hadn't been a Power 5 or now Power 4 head coach. So you don't know. Back to the inexact science. Yeah, I probably met. He was here for I guess the Spurrier Awards a few months ago, and he was giving the award. Yeah, great guy. He would be great in front of the cameras. And you could tell just getting him to the side. He knows what's going on. This is no dummy. He knows, he's the kind of guy who you would be impressed. Everybody would be impressed with him. But again, you just never know if he gets in there what's going to happen.
Right.
Because same thing with Billy. He was the guy. But Chadwell he's very smooth, but he's genuine too. It's not like he's a car salesman smooth. But he knows.
He's genuine smooth. I was really impressed with him. Rob, what do you think about him?
Jamey Chadwell was at Coastal Carolina for a long time, and he's at Liberty now. I think he's from East Tennessee, right around Knoxville. Spurrier was from Johnson City. Chadwell's been doing this a long time, but Florida, you get you a fit. I'm just not sure. That's the one. I wouldn't hire him. You got to get somebody that can win quickly, because the days of giving somebody 5 or 6 years to build a program they've long disappeared. Dan Lanning is going to get a lot of attention, so that's the one I'd go after. I got a friend whose son is on his staff, and Dan Lanning's from right around Kansas City. That's where he was born and raised.
Does Phil Knight let that happen?
He can't stop it. If Florida comes and offers him that job, and he's been at Georgia, he knows the landscape. He's young. He's not even 40 years old. Let's see what he does in the Big Ten this year, because it's a much more physical brand of football. But if they win the Big Ten, I think Dan Lanning would be at the top of y'all's list. I like it.
Sure. Yeah, and I think that they will go for a guy who's a proven commodity this time because you always go for the other type that whatever your previous hire was and it doesn't work out. If it's a young players coach and it doesn't work out, you go for the old veteran disciplinarian. If the old guy didn't, then you go for the young players coach. I think that they're going to want to go with a guy with a proven record and who will, as Rob says, come in and immediately be able to establish things here. And Lanning would be. Sure, he would be a great candidate. A guy I throw out is Ryan Day if he loses to Michigan. Impeccable record. Only thing he's done wrong is lose to Michigan. I don't think he'll lose to Michigan, but
no, I don't either.
No, but if he does, you know how it is up there. They'll be ready to run him out of the state, right? Especially this year, if he loses to them. And is he going to say, "Do I need this anymore?" It would be basically a reverse Urban at that point. Where Urban left. He left on his own volition here, but if he lost with a 940 winning percentage, but he can't beat Michigan, so he life is miserable up there. He says, "Well, I'll go down there where people will be happy and appreciate what I've done." And if you look at what he's done, other than the last 3 Michigan games, you're not going to find. Recruiting wise, facility. It's just to me, he would be another. There are certain guys like Dan Lanning that you at least make the call to, or you call Jimmy Sexton and ask how he feels about it,
right?
And see if they have any interest, and you pursue it from there. And he's certainly one of them.
Right. Well, let's run it down, and you guys, we'll talk about it. Number 2 odds, obviously, Lane Kiffin plus 500, Deion Sanders plus 600.
Yeah.
Eli Drinkwitz
throwing money away there.
700. Brent Key, Georgia Tech coach, 8 plus 800. Brian Schottenheimer, former Florida quarterback, 900. Glenn Schumann, 1,200. Chris Kleiman, 1,200. Matt Rule, 1,400. Josh Heupel, 1,400. Brent Venables, 1,800. Lance Leopold, 1,800. Mark Stoops, 2,500. Shane Beamer, 2,500. You guys like any of those names?
Matt Rule. That's the other one I was going to say. And Yancey Porter, Rebel Yell Hotline, a member of our team on this channel, Sidelines, just texted me, and he does Rebel Yell Hotline, covers Ole Miss. He goes, "I don't even know the name of the team we're playing Saturday. This early schedule is so crappy. But tell Lauren I'll hook up with him and show him around. So I'll get his information to you and contact him after the show. We're going to take care of you when you come up here."
Oh, yeah, no doubt. Georgia Southern, actually. Tell me.
Yeah, he was kidding. He's kind of mad because he bought one of those suites. He goes, "Man, it comes out to about $5,000 a game, and we're playing some pretty crappy teams." Yeah. But hey, Lanning, someone said about Phil Knight won't let that happen. As Franz Beard always says on the show, only God and the Longhorns have more money than the Aggies. But and I said this to a friend of mine whose brother played at Texas on that 77 team that Joe Montana beat. He said, Mike still talks about how scared they were coming out of the tunnel. It was supposed to be 85 degrees that day, and they gave them mesh jerseys, and it was cold. He said, but that wasn't it. It was the sheer size of Notre Dame. Even for then, they were considered ginormous. But he said, since 1970, Texas won national titles in 69 and 70. Starting with 71, with all that money, the whole state of Texas has only produced one national championship, and that was 2005. The state of Florida, with 23 million people, Texas about 30, since 1983, do the Gazendas 11 national championships, and probably another 11 times that those 3 schools, Florida State, Florida, and Miami, played for the national championship. You've got a state, as Ernie McCracken told Roy Munson in Kingpin, you're on a gravy train with biscuit wheels. You just got to get the right coach, and Florida will catch fire. And as Coach Bryant used to say, if they ever get a coach down there, we'll all be fighting for second. I've gotten 6 texts in the last 2 days from people sending that to me. Florida is an explosion waiting for the right coach. That's just my take.
All right,
Well,
David.
It's exploded a couple of times, with Spurrier and Urban.
It has.
Think back to
I'm
Urban.
saying right now. Yeah.
In a positive note, and I want to touch on a couple of things. Florida volleyball dispatches of the Noles tonight, 15-6 in 5 sets. Kennedy Martin returned to the lineup. That was big for the Gators. They should actually get All-American setter Big Red Stuckey back this week or this weekend or next week. So, as far as volleyball, and then Tim Walton, in good news, actually received a commitment from the number one softball recruit in the 2026 class today as well. So utility player, pitcher, could play first base and even in the outfield. So some of the sports doing some of the things that they need to do. So, we'll just stick with that for now. But David, you heard the names. Who you like on that list?
I got to admit, half of them I was curious. I was like, where does he coach?
Who you need?
Yeah. Well, the most laughable one to me was Dion. I mean, I don't know why anybody would hire. I mean, come on. I think that's just the Vegas bookies getting a chuckle out of the whole thing. I mean, Dion has proven he can get a lot of attention to the program and to himself, but he hadn't proven he can build a program at all. And so that's just sort of a farce there. I mean, the other, I just think they're going to. You got to go with the proven commodities, like I said, and just reach out to them whether they're on the list or not. That'd be Lanning, that'd be Ryan Day. I mean, heck, give Saban a call. But I don't think people say Phil Knight won't let that happen. I mean, Dan Lanning, he's making probably 10. So Florida offers 12. I mean, at some point, your coach is thinking, what? So okay, I'm going to be rich beyond my wildest dreams anyway, and it's going to be guaranteed. So if he goes to Florida, he'll be guaranteed $100 million. If he stays there, be guaranteed 150. At some point, it's just like, does it matter? And will Dan Lanning think, I want to go back to the SEC? I want to go match my wits against Kirby and blah blah blah. And I know what Florida can do, and that whole thing, And so, I mean, but we can have these tit for tat conversation for everybody. And we're going to have about Lane forever. Like, is Ole Miss better job than Florida? And it is right now. And Lane is building a house for his kids. And okay, does that mean he's going to stay? Well, it means he's going to stay right now. But doesn't I mean, this we're just at the start of this whole thing, and eventually, the only people who really know right now is Lane and maybe that's it. Maybe not even his girlfriend. And even Lane probably doesn't know. He says, well, you don't have to do anything. Just go out and do your job and coach, and if it does happen, we're not going to know about it till the day after Ole Miss loses, for sure. And that could be, and that's another whole can of worms.
It's going to be after Christmas, probably.
Yeah. With the whole time, like none of the proven coaches are going to be available when you need them. Right. Because you want to bring them in, in November, obviously, but who's going to, who's going to leave there a decent team in November to come, take over the Gator program and start recruiting. There's no way even Jamey Chadwell wouldn't do that. I mean, if he did, I wouldn't want to hire a guy who would basically abandon his shit. If he's any good, he's going to be having, on the round and third head for home in the playoffs at that point. And, you can't jump ship then. And so, I mean, whoever you get, if he's good, basically you can't worry about the recruits and this recruiting class. Essentially, you're going to have to take 2 steps back to eventually take 3 forward on that. And just assume you're going to lose guys and you have to come in and scramble and throw things together the first year. But that's just the sad reality, because none of these guys are going to come in time to salvage a recruiting class.
Right. Go ahead, Rob.
Well, okay. People will throw out Lane building houses. That doesn't mean anything. I remember a friend of mine who's close to Hugh Freeze, his family. He said, Rob, Coach Freeze is not leaving Liberty. I said, why? He goes, they just built him a new house and extended his contract. I said, let me tell you something. When that 334 area code from Auburn, Alabama comes through, he's going to pick up the phone and, to quote Vern Lundquist, yes, sir. Here's another statistic you got to think about. You know what Lane Kiffin's record is against teams that complete the season with 9 or more wins? 3-20. Now, you could say, but if he came to Florida, that would be better. I don't know. But I do know that it won't be because Ole Miss can't pay him enough, because they've got a monster war chest called the Grove Collective. Yancey is looking forward to meeting with you, and you can talk. Y'all can, talk shop. You're going to have fun when you meet him. And I tell you, I would want the Florida job just because growing up, an Auburn fan from the womb, I know how good that program is. It's just like, I've been to games in the Swamp. I have recruited. I've watched Auburn recruit against Florida. I have watched that program go from, flatlining in 1979, 0-10-1 to 1980 going 8-4 and beating Maryland, I think it was 35-23 in the Tangerine Bowl, the greatest turnaround up to that point in the history of college football. And 11 of the 22 starters on that Gator team had been high school quarterbacks. You have to go back. I mean, I just think about that program, and really, this sounds crazy, guys. You have to work hard to screw it up. And yes, Ron Roberts was the defensive coordinator last year when Auburn rushed 2. They really didn't rush anybody. They had Eugene Asante, the middle linebacker, play patty cake. They didn't rush anybody. But that's another story. Doesn't mean Ron Roberts isn't a good coach. But whoever made that call should be in the witness protection program of coaching. But I think that this Florida job, Phil Knight, yes, he's got a lot of money. He's always had a lot of money. How many national championships has Oregon won? Now, they played for it in 2010 against Auburn and lost, and they played for it in 2014 against Ohio State and lost. But you know what? You go to Florida, you can tell them we won it in 96, 06, and 08. Played for it in 95. I probably had some other teams that should have played for it. Or it. Man, I like Dan Lanning. He's the defensive coach. Do what?
What's that?
I like Dan Lanning. Yeah.
So what's not to like? He'd be, he would immediately get people. Oh, I can't wait till next year.
Who is that again?
There are very few guys on that list you mentioned where I think Gator fans would just say, oh yeah, exciting. And a lot of them would be, well, let's see. The way this program has sunken into this sort of malaise, you need a guy that's going to immediately have that name, boom, recognition. Everybody gets behind it. As opposed to, well, he looks good, but I'm not sure about this.
Right.
And I mean, and you can find a chink in everybody's armor if you look hard enough. And of course, I don't know. Maybe Kirby, at this point you can't, but except you wouldn't want him to be in charge of your traffic citations, that seems to be impossible. Yeah. Well, for whatever reason, they can't figure that one out. Yeah.
Let me throw another name out there, or maybe let me ask this question: because I think he's a much better football coach than he gets credit for, simply because I think he makes his team extremely relevant, but he can't beat the Big Two. And, without getting into the color of things, which I think has very little to do with it, what's the problem with James Franklin in many people's eyes, do you think? Because you can't say a whole bunch of people haven't beat Michigan or Ohio State. So if that's his only blemish, what is the problem with James Franklin? I'm just asking.
But he's been there long enough to where you think he would have done it by now. Something. It's like,
well, he beat Michigan 3 times. He only beat Ohio State once, but I mean, he has beat them.
Yeah. I hadn't looked into it. He did well. And he did it, but it's just like he's been there, but he just never had made the breakthrough there that people expect.
Has he? I mean, look, these are obvious. Is this his 11th year?
500.
Yeah,
he's almost 70 games over 500. So he's more than mediocre. People need to look up. The next time, I'm going to tell our listeners this. Look up the meaning of mediocre and stop using the word until you understand the meaning of it. 70 games over 500 for any coach is not mediocre. You have the floor, Rob.
No, I was saying, is this his 11th year at Penn State?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
10th or okay. He left after the 12 or 13 season at Vanderbilt. I'm thinking he left after 13. So I think with him, again, how many times has he won the Big Ten in his time at Penn State?
How many times has anybody other than him finished third? I see that's you see what I'm saying. I mean, I get it, but go ahead.
But again, all I'm saying about him is, hell, I like him. He's a god at Vanderbilt. I mean, they won 9 games back to back in Nashville in West End. Now that happens about as often as we have a balanced budget in Washington. Doesn't happen very often. So Franklin's a hell of a recruiter, but I'm just Dan Lanning. That's the guy that I watch because he's been down here, he's gone across the country, and they've got a direct, nonstop flight, multiple flights every day from Eugene to Dallas-Fort Worth Airport. That's how important they think recruiting the state of Texas is. So they get it. I'm telling you, my friend's son is scout team coordinator, recruiting. He's real involved in the recruiting heavily. And Matt will be on the show with us, Thursday. And I talked to him earlier today. He was with Jimbo for 4 years at A&M. And, Ryan's doing really well in the coaching. I think Lanning, again, he's from Kansas City. Again, y'all know the Florida boosters way better than I do. The board of trustees, how active are they? Because somebody, I know how it happens at most schools, at least at Auburn and Alabama, the big dogs go in there to the president's office and tell them how it's going to be done. It's just, they have a sit down, but they tell them how it's going to be done, and they work with them. But, you're going to tell Jimmy Rain, the yellow fella, he can't tell you who your coach is going to be. Good luck on that one. But I don't know who are the most visible Gator boosters that you know of that are in that 800 million to 2 or 3 billion or more net worth, because those are the guys. If they love football, they'll get you a coach. They'll fly out there and get them. That's what Jimmy Rain did with Tuberville. He went over there and said, "Come on, we're going to Auburn."
Right.
That's how they did it.
Mr. Whitley could speak to that more than I could. I'm not necessarily sure. Does Florida have those? I know we have guys that have put their names on buildings and things like that, but do we have a stamp guy that really puts their stamp down here in Gainesville or in Florida somewhere? From what it seems to me, and I'm very new to that part of it, Mr. Whitley, you would know more than I do.
Yeah.
Is there such a guy in Gainesville in Florida, or a Florida alum?
There's no one guy. There's no Phil Knight kind of guy that when he talks, everybody listens. There are a handful of big money guys, but one I don't think has sway over the other. Like he says, I like Dan Lanning. That means everybody's if somebody else, if Hugh Hathcock says I like Dan Lanning and Gary Condren says, I like James Franklin, then I don't know. It's not like one has the checkbook over the other to do this. And there is no these guys are all, very well off, but none of them are just, silly money well off, like, 5-10 billionaire kind of things where it doesn't matter, like Phil Knight does. So there's money there, but it's a collective. Money isn't an issue, but it's not like they call one guy and say, all right, well, we need another 500 million. And they say, well, let me go look under my couch cushion and I'll send you a check. So I don't think that, if they do decide on a guy, that they will come up with whatever it takes to do it. Then it's just a question of, is that the other things like as Billy would say, the alignment, and he thought he had it here between the president and Scott and everything. They're all focused and everything, and that gets back to this muddled picture: is that whoever comes in is going to want to be comfortable with the AD. Will they have an AD? Will it be an interim AD? Will they have to hire an AD first? Assuming Scott Strickland's gone, to hire this guy, because you don't want to come in and think, all right, this boss hired me, but this boss is going to get fired. They're going to bring in another guy that I don't know. Same with the president. It's just they couldn't have picked a worse year to have all this, just turmoil at the top, between Sass leaving and.
And I want to point out something real quick, and I want to send a shout out to Brian Shields up in Michigan. I actually met Brian during the Sanford game, and it was really good to meet him and talk to him. And then my boy Lynn Tyndall, Lynn is original Gator Bait guy and big fan of the program, things like that. I mean, guys, that have vested interest in this thing and following us from far and wide. But when you look at just this whole thing, I mean, I think no matter what, and I think we have to resign ourselves to the fact that as football fans, forget being a Florida Gator fan, if you like college football and you like how this thing works, you're almost in a position to get ready for the mess at Florida, because there's so many moving parts that there's no way this thing locks in easy, would you say? With an interim president, an interim AD, the relationship may or may not be there. There is going to be no symbiotic kind of put it together, piece it together. I wouldn't think. I mean,
like if there's no set AD, then usually the coach perspective will come in and say, well, I will answer to the president, but who knows what the president's going to be?
Correct.
And because that was, Charlie Pell's thing. He didn't answer to, and that's why they got him in trouble. He didn't answer to Bill Carr. He answered to the president, who was basically, totally asleep at everything. So Charlie ran amok. But and that's not a healthy situation where your football coach doesn't have to deal with the AD. That wouldn't have. So I don't know how they're going to work through all this stuff, but they're going to have to figure it out somehow.
Right. And somebody mentioned Joe Brady on the chat. We're going down the same. I mean, I guess my thing is, if you're telling me Joe Brady's okay, but guys like Jamey Chadwell and James Franklin and all the names outside of Deion Sanders, the names we name, but you're okay with Joe Brady. And people forget Joe Brady was a disaster with Matt Rule as the offensive coordinator at Carolina. I mean, Joe Brady really has presided over one great year of offense. And that group of people, when you talk about Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase and Randy Moss's kid and, the Heisman Trophy winner, Joe Burrow, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, anybody may have been able to call plays with that group. So
Billy could have done with that.
I think we're,
Lyndon could have.
Yeah, so I think that's where, it's going to be this. But I think, what I, and I really respect both you guys and Mr. Whitley, you great writer and well-respected. Rob, more people than I could ever imagine that are dialed into this thing. And with this speculation, I think at some point in time, as fans of the game, as fans of the SEC, you got to start having serious conversations. And one thing I like about it is I think we've come up with an alternative to Lane Kiffin, which could be Dan Lanning, but I think what people need to prepare themselves is in this world, people say no. People say no. Yeah. People are going to say no. They are going to say no to the University of Florida. So then what? And with all these moving parts, no matter how you feel about Scott Strickland, the president, it's going to be rocky anyway. Even if Lane Kiffin comes, it's going to be rocky. It may not be rocky from an on the field standpoint, but there's still going to be a lot of things going on because you and I both know, and this is what I told somebody about Lane Kiffin. I'm going to play devil's advocate. is Lane Kiffin comes here. Let's say Lane Kiffin goes 9-3, 10-2, 11-2, or makes a run at it in the playoffs, and Stephen Jones or Jerry Jones has had enough, or whoever they want to be quarterback. What keeps Jerry Jones or Stephen Jones from saying, "Hey, Lane, all you get to do is worry about football now, baby, and we got all the money in the world down here in Texas, like you said. Come be the Cowboys' next coach." See, my concern is Lane Kiffin could be the answer, but I think the days of the coach being here 12 years, putting the bricks to Georgia, winning 6, 7 SEC titles, playing for a couple national titles is long gone at a lot of schools, particularly somebody like Lane Kiffin, who has this draw to be a next level type of coach.
Yeah, I mean, Lane has been in the NFL. I mean, but you can't imagine that with Kirby. He just doesn't feel like an NFL coach,
right?
And so, but where do you find that guy? Kirby was the classic check the box guy who turned out to be, he checked the ultimate box. But again, if you just look at where he was, never been a Power 5 coach, been a great defensive coordinator, and a Saban disciple. So you figure, well, okay. Of course, he also walked into a pretty good situation at Georgia, but he's made a good situation into, an outstanding situation there. I mean, if he wasn't good, they would have fallen back by now, and there's no sign they are.
No, he can coach.
Yeah, but if Lane came in and he was hired away, I'd say that's a good problem to have. Then at least all the ire would be directed towards Jerry Jones, as opposed to inwardly being directed outwardly. So it's funny. We're 56 minutes in, and we haven't even, no talk about X's and O games, the Texas A&M game. It's like it's all a fait accompli. We're moving on.
I think at this point, the problem with the X and O part of the thing is it's been so bad in the X's and the O's that we can sit here and play this guesswork. Yeah. And there's Brendan. He'd start drinking if we started that. He'd been on the X.
I just started drinking
of a year ago, but we do got to talk about Titan MRI, our sponsor, Titan MRI, Gainesville and Lake City and Ocala, surrounding areas. Newest MRI facility. Like we said before, they got the huge MRI. If you're claustrophobic like myself, or you need a little music, Titan MRI can definitely hook you up.
And sleep in those things.
Titan MRI, Gainesville, Lake City, Titan MRI. For sure.
So for sure. That's their slogan, actually. They're going with Titan MRI for sure. I like that.
So as we close and kind of go around, I mean, I guess we could ask, as and Mr. Whitley, you brought up a good point, is with this game now, and for what we would say, we have this lame duck status. We had the blowout by the Toledo Rockets coming to Starkville, taking care of business, putting the MAC on the map against the SEC team like Central Michigan did, I think, a year or two ago, or maybe even last year against Oklahoma State, again in the Big 12, getting a good win. Where does Florida? Where is Florida now? And are we just setting ourselves up for more disappointment, saying once again, this is another winnable game? This will be the fourth straight athletic type quarterback that the Gators have played. They've struggled against that. And it's that Jeff Lebby system that's extremely fast paced. They run a lot of different plays. Great prep for the UCF game, but not good for the Gators right now as they're constructed. So, to finish, what are you looking for on Saturday?
With this team, I have no faith. I had Mississippi State given Toledo a game, I would have said, I'm going with the Bulldogs. But that was such a, all due respect to the Mud Hens. They're not them, I know, but but
there is a team in Toledo
the rocket scientist.
Yeah.
Wrong sport, but great job.
That's right. The Mud Rocket Hens, but it's just I can't fathom still that they would, because Florida still should just have enough talent, but man, just they're, when I look at that defense and it's just in such disarray, that I don't know if they can stop anybody. I mean, if they hadn't stopped anybody since FSU, which was, with its backup QB. And of course, Texas A&M had its backup QB in there, and, he looked like Jaden Daniels against these guys. So yes. I think either way that I think Sunday might be it for Billy, because you have the open week and they'll just say, this is time to make transition. And, that's a whole nother conversation on how, there's not a good candidate on that, obvious candidate on that staff to do it. I mean, here, Dan Enos, because he has been a head coach, or Ron Roberts, but, whoever it is, it's caretaker time. And just
Rob, what do you think?
Your big money people at Florida know coaches. I know a friend of mine's father used to help Alabama a lot, different schools. They know these coaches. A friend of mine, he used to come home from school, Barry Switzer, Johnny Majors, Jimmy Johnson be at his dad's house. They know where these guys are. And we're not talking about them, but I guarantee you Florida's boosters, they've got some big guys swinging a big stick, and they are talking to some coaches because it's a great job. I mean, I don't know. And Lauren Yancey's sitting here chomping at the bits to meet you in Oxford, okay? That's going to be a very good – it's going to be a meeting of two great minds. But put things in perspective real quick. The state of Texas gives the government, the state legislature, every year, 2/3 of the oil and gas money to Austin, 1/3 to College Station. The Permian Basin out there, Midland, Odessa out there in West Texas, produces on average 4.2 million barrels of oil per day. With all that money, they still can't get it right. If money can solve it, it's not really a problem. You got to get the right Gators involved. Ben Hill Griffin, I think it'd be a cool story for y'all to go, what are his family members doing? What's their involvement? He's been long gone, great Gators in the sky, but what are his family members doing? And how involved are they with Florida athletics? You find that when you talk to really wealthy people, you spend 95% of your time talking about things other than money. Mm-hmm. And they just have to like you. They have to trust you. But I will tell you this. I love this conversation. David, Lauren, Brendan, because y'all are beat writers. Y'all are on this stuff every day. Brendan, I get stuff in the middle of the night. There's not a better source. We're going to talk about it in the morning. Brendan, we've got Graham Hall going to join us. We got Jake Wimberly from Jackson, Mississippi. He knows that Ole Miss situation really well. Dudley Dawson, Hogville.net, and Vince Ferrara up on the hill in Knoxville. What's going on here? This is the biggest story in college football right now, and nobody's covering it like y'all. Y'all cover it like a blanket, and it's awesome. So I get these alerts, by the way. Smash that subscribe button, people. But thanks for letting me be on.
And what you got this week, Mr. Whitley, for the rest of the week? You kind of hit the ground running on early Sunday morning. What do you got the rest of the week?
We're just sitting here waiting on the next shoe to drop, and all this other stuff. When you're talking about two QBs, the defense, unfortunately, it's just moot at this point. It all gets back to the drama that we have, and I would just like some resolution on that to happen, and so we can get on with it and move to the next chapter, because the next chapter is coming. And the one thing that we all know about is that Lane and a few other guys will use this to get a raise somehow.
Jimmy Sexton is the master.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He's the man.
Wow. Yeah.
He's Rob Brown. David Whitley for the Gainesville.
Hold on before you go. You can't just leave me out of the last question.
That's right. He's High Plains drifter.
Are you afraid of me?
Did you buzz in or what? You got to hit the buzzer.
I control everything. I have all the controls. Anything I want to do.
Go ahead. You have the floor.
I'm going to give you a very X's and O's answer. That's not, all about whiny. Billy's going to go whatever. Billy's going to be lame duck or not. I don't want to see the Gators lose. So, I think, right? So, like, if they're going to go play this game and be serious and he's going to be the coach, then it would be nice if they showed a little grit, fix some of this offensive line issues and, focus – a little bit on like fundamentals and practice and communication amongst coaches would be awesome.
Do you want this show to go 30 more minutes?
Listen, no, I'm just saying, like,
it's Saturday night.
Just like what David said, like, don't suck on defense. Don't, you got headsets, try to make them work and like talk to each other and, just don't try to lose to a team that's supposedly worse than you in the SEC. So don't. Hey, how about this? Don't embarrass Gator Nation again, please. That's it.
There's a rallying cry for you.
Yeah.
Just don't suck. That'd be great. Try not to suck on Saturday and make me turn it off after 3 minutes. That'd be awesome.
This is going to be a day that lives in Gator Bait history. Imagine that same conversation eating Raising Cane's at about 3 a.m. Eastern time in Salt Lake City, Utah.
With no, slammed in a rental car with what, 6 of us? 5 of us?
6 of us in a rental car, yeah. And my poor wife with all these hard ankles, yeah.
And then just all the whining because we had to walk so far. Yeah, that was fun.
Well, no, we appreciate you guys. Great show. Like I said, Rob Brown.
Tomorrow's show and Rob's.
And David Whitley. He's Brendan Martin, executive producer. I'm your host, Lauren Meadows.
I don't know what. I really don't know what I do. I don't even know what the show is anymore.
Lauren, I sent you Yancey's phone number just now. Text him back tonight.
Yeah, I'm gonna get with him. And we got to talk about Rinstar Medical Research as we go out the door. Thank you, gentlemen, very much,
guys. Yeah. Oh no, I need him. Well, we'll bring you back. There you go. Sorry.
Great show, man.
Yeah, let's see it. We're going to talk Rinstar Medical Research.
Yes, sir.
Tomorrow's answers to the health questions of today.
Tomorrow's answers for the health questions of the day. The Brantley family doing a lot of research with Parkinson's disease, memory loss, physical ailments. Just a really good group. I'm gonna tell you, man. Ocala has.
Billy should go down there, or
no? I ain't getting into that.
Bam! Boom! Shots fired.
I'll tell you, man. Ocala has a great medical community, and Rinstar Medical Research is at the forefront. So,
yes, they are.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, sorry I had to dip out on you there tonight. I had to be a dad. So great job, Lauren Meadows. Check him out, GatorbaitMedia.com. He's the best. Thanks. No, nothing else to say. Check out Buddy Martin tomorrow and Rob Brown at 9 in the morning. Same.
Tell it like it is Tuesday.
Taco Tuesday. Tell it like it is. All right. Good night, everybody.